Hello, and welcome to Waycross Candidate Profiles. Each year during the election season, we offer candidates running in the Waycross viewing area an opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes in length to you, the voting audience at home. Waycross does not take positions on candidates or issues, but I do encourage you to vote on November 3rd.
Hi, I'm Steve Chabot, and I've had the honor of representing you in Congress for nearly 24 years now. We live in unprecedented times. Considering the myriad of challenges our country faces, from the COVID-19 pandemic to the civil unrest in many cities across the country, it's important that your representative in Congress has the experience and track record necessary to tackle complex issues. During my time in Congress, I've worked hard to help steer our nation and our community through tough times. And if you want some independent verification as to how effective your representative in Congress is, UVA, the University of Virginia, and Vanderbilt have studied Congress for the past few years and ranked members of Congress on their effectiveness. I've been ranked as one of the top 10 out of hundreds of members of Congress. Now, my opponent would have you believe that experience is a bad thing. But here's a real-world example of how my experience and effectiveness has helped our community during this difficult period. In the spring, when we were faced with widespread shutdowns of businesses throughout the country due to COVID, we knew Congress needed to act fast to avoid an economic meltdown. As ranking member of the House Small Business Committee, I worked closely with Chairwoman Nydia Velázquez of New York, who happens to be a Democrat, and our counterparts in the Senate to devise and implement the Paycheck Protection Program, commonly known as the PPP program, which has helped save over 50 million jobs across the country. This critical program provided forgivable loans to small businesses so they could keep as many workers as possible employed. And it's been a vital lifeline for the local economy. Over 15,000 Greater Cincinnati small businesses have been helped by the program. And that, in turn, has saved over 250,000 jobs in our congressional district. That's more than any of the other 15 districts in Ohio. Additionally, because of my proven track record of working in a bipartisan manner to find solutions to local problems, I've been endorsed by Democratic Sheriff Jim Neal and Cincinnati FOP President Dan Hills. They know that I have been and will continue to be a partner to both law enforcement and community leaders in their combined efforts to keep our neighborhoods safe and secure for every resident. While things are improving, we still have a number of obstacles in front of us. First and foremost, we must beat COVID-19. As part of that effort, I'm working and will continue to work with Governor DeWine and local leaders to make sure that we have the resources we need to keep you and your family safe and healthy, especially as we carefully and safely reopen schools and return to work. At the federal level, we need to take the necessary steps to make sure a safe and effective vaccine is approved and available to all Americans. And we need to continue to safely reopen our economy, especially help small businesses impacted by the virus. In particular, I'm working to extend and expand the Paycheck Protection Program to give smaller employers and those still struggling to maintain their workforce access to the resources they need to stay afloat. Ultimately, we will prevail and come back better and stronger than ever before, but it will require experienced and effective leadership. We cannot afford to send inexperienced first-time candidates without a proven track record to Congress. I take my commitment to you very seriously, and I will continue to work hard every day to improve the lives, health, and safety of every person, man, woman, or child in our community. If you agree that now more than ever we need proven, experienced, and effective leaders to help us rise above the unprecedented challenges we face, I would appreciate your vote this November. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Kahn and I am the Libertarian Party candidate for Congress here in the 1st District of Ohio. I'm a local business owner. I have a headquarters here in Cincinnati and I have offices overseas, and my company specializes in exporting made in the USA industrial products. And I'm real proud of the work that we do because I know that it brings great paying middle-class manufacturing jobs here locally in Cincinnati, as well as to other communities around the country. In addition to my work, I've had the opportunity to serve on the boards of directors both on publicly listed companies as well as civic organizations like chambers of commerce, and I understand what fiduciary responsibility is and that the constituency that elects me to these positions expects a certain amount of performance. I've also spent some time as a youth ice hockey coach in the area and have appreciated the time I've had to spend with our youth, teaching and mentoring them not only in sports but in life. I'm married. My wife is an immigrant from Mongolia. I have 2 children. One was born here in Cincinnati and one was born overseas. And my path to candidacy started on the last return trip we've taken from Mongolia visiting my wife's parents, when we had a very bad interaction at Customs and Border Control, where an unnamed bureaucrat who didn't know my family from anyone challenged the veracity that my 1.5-year-old daughter was actually my child. And we traveled with passports and birth certificates and marriage license, and it scared the hell out of me. And I said to myself, I've got the opportunity and the ability to do something, and I've launched my campaign. Our government has forgotten that it's we the people that have vested a small portion of our individual inherent rights to authorize it to administer our society in an ethically and efficient way. We call the first 10 amendments of our Constitution the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Proposed Government Permissions. Our government has forgotten that and exceeded their limitations. One of the areas that I'm particularly focused on is excessive government spending. Just this week, we passed the $27 trillion mark on our federal debt. My Republican opponent, Mr. Chabot, has been in office for 24 years. He claims to be a fiscal conservative and a supporter of the balanced budget amendment. And of those 24 years, 8 of them, the Republicans held the presidency, the House, and the Senate at the same time, and he proposed nothing of the sort. My Democratic opponent, Mrs. Schroeder, is proposing free stuff for everybody and not a realistic way to pay for it. What they're proposing is throw all of this into the debt and let our children and our grandchildren pick up the tab. That's nothing less than indentured servitude. You can't put debt on a person without their ability to vote, to incur it, and accept it. The Libertarian Party is the only party on the ballot in all 50 states, D.C. and Guam, that is calling for an immediate return to fiscal responsibility and ethical spending, and that we go forward with a balanced budget. And if I go to Washington, I will work my tail off to make that happen. The other area that I'd like to talk about in my allotted time is the infringement and assault of the government on our individual rights. And that could be the co-sponsoring of red flag laws like H.R. 838 that Mr. Chabot is a co-sponsor of, and Mr. Schroeder has come out publicly and supports. It could be the ideas of the Patriot Act that infringe our Fourth Amendment. Their refusal combined, the Democrats and Republicans, to eliminate qualified immunity from our judicial system. It could be civil asset forfeiture or eminent domain that infringe our Fifth Amendment right. And all of it combined are an assault on due process, which is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. And what that does is protect our ability to say, yes, we are innocent until proven guilty, and the government is working hard to say, we don't need to prove anything, we're just going to do it. At this very moment, my opponents are having a debate to which I wasn't invited. And earlier this week, this station had a roundtable which they refused to attend because I was here, and they knew that they would face difficult questions and have to face these issues. And that is my proposition to you. I'm not a career politician. I don't owe anybody favors. I haven't taken money from special interests, and I'm not subservient to congressional leadership like Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell. I can go to Washington, vote your vote, and give you the transparency that you deserve as your elected representative. Thank you.
Greetings, my fellow Americans. Many of you don't know me that well. My name is Q Marskiani, also known as Dr. Q. 40 years ago, I was born in Tehran, Iran, a country that, despite being the cradle of Bill of Rights and civilization by Cyrus the Great, is now upside down by a thuggish Islamic mafia that was installed by the globalist pedo cult in 1979. I was poisoned by the government because I was working for freedom of speech and assembly. I came to this country as a political and religious refugee while I was fighting for my life on a daily basis, while I was mute and semi-paralyzed. Those days I was not even sure if I could survive, but America welcomed me and restored me. America gave me a home away from my home and gave me a shelter to live, an opportunity to shine, and became business owner and entrepreneur. And I could never thank you all enough for your generosities and kind hearts. However, I feel that I need to return the favor today and be there for you in America. I could talk about the boring and cliche, how I could fix the country and bring back the jobs from communist China, and how I could clean up the mess that career politicians who are supposed to represent you in Washington, D.C. have made, and could go on and on about issues that matter to Ohioans. But as my father always says, first thing first. Let's start with the pink elephant in our very living room. Let's start it from our liberties and lives that have been endangered while we are busy arguing with government if we should get the stimulus package or not. What good is the employment rate or GDP if we are not free? We all are familiar with the phrase, trading a bit of your freedom for safety after 9/11. We all remember how desperate we all sounded and acted on those very devastating days. We all remember vividly how the fear got the best of us and how unjustly we went to war, and we were told that war would last indefinitely because terrorism has no geographical location or nationality. They will be everywhere, and there won't be no end to the war and the color-coded terror alerts. It took almost 16 years for all of us to say to the deep state and pedo cult that enough is enough, not knowing that they took the garbage that we all threw out, reshaped it, painted for us, and relabeled the same garbage as pandemic. The perverted cabal has used the same PR fear tactics because somehow you could put that on any artificial crisis, and it is working 100% of the time like magic. They have recycled the same invisible boogeyman and are using it as I speak. Yesterday it was called Al-Qaeda. Well, today they call it COVID-19. They're using the same color-coded terror alerts and the same fake news hype, deception, and lies. My fellow compatriots, I am here to put an end to atrocious lies created by the man behind the closed doors. I am here to shout out and speak my mind and tell Ohioans and the entire nation eventually that the king is nude. I am once again going to fight with this force and illogical hijab that is enforced on us unlawfully. I am here to reintroduce you to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because everybody dies, not everybody lives. So that is my plan, and I'm sure you will support me in my endeavor. At the end, I would like to thank Waycross Community Media for giving me an access to their wonderful platform. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
I'm Kate Schroeder, and I am the Democratic nominee for Congress here in Ohio's 1st District. And I'm running because we need change. We have so many real and pressing problems in our community, whether it's the pandemic, racial injustice, our economy that's ground to a halt. And we're not going to solve these problems with the status quo. For too long, we have been electing leaders like my opponent, who focuses on dividing us and pulling us apart. And I think the majority of Americans and the majority of people in this community want leaders that bring us together and get things done. And I'm a low-ego mom. I have a 5- and 7-year-old, and I know how to de-escalate. I do it every day. and that is the attitude that I want to bring to Congress. I grew up here in Cincinnati in a fifth-generation Cincinnati family, and before anyone can ask, I can answer the most common question about where I went to school, meaning high school. I went to Ursuline, and I went to grade school at Nativity. And a quick story, growing up at Nativity, we always had altar boys who put on the white robes and helped the priest during the Mass. And one time in 5th grade, the priest came to my class and said, hey, we had a cancellation for Pentecost Mass on Sunday. Can any of the boys please come and help volunteer? And they're, 10-year-old boys, nobody raised their hand. And so we asked again and again, nobody raised their hand. So I did. And it was awkward. The priest didn't know what to do. They never had a girl do this job before, and he looked at the teacher, and the teacher looked at the priest. And eventually he said, well, do you know what to do? And I said, I think so. So he told me to come, and I went on Sunday, and I put on the white robe, and I served the Mass, and it was no big deal. And from that point forward, we always had altar girls at Nativity, as well as altar boys. And I share that story because I was not trying to bring attention to myself or do anything dramatic. I was trying to help. And that 10-year-old is the same person that I am today. I am a helper and a doer. I've spent my career in public health. I have an MBA from Wharton and have focused my career on bringing business skills to solve public health challenges. I lived in Zambia for 2 years when I was 29 and opened an office there and hired our local staff. I've led programs globally in pediatric HIV and other killers of kids to reduce mortality rates. And I've led these programs that have reduced drug prices and expanded treatment access. Here in Cincinnati, we moved back here 7 years ago to raise our family here. We live in Clifton. I've served on the Board of Health for the past 4 years, where I've led efforts to expand dental services in our public health clinics and fought to keep our dental emergency clinics open during the pandemic. I love to solve problems. It's what motivates me. Although 10 years ago, when I was 33, I encountered a problem I could not solve. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I've had one of those days that so many Americans and people in this community have had, where your survival is dependent on access to healthcare, where all the things that were stressing you out evaporate and nothing matters. But can I access the healthcare, and will it work on my body? And I have never forgotten what it feels like to be that vulnerable. And it's a huge part of what motivates me to run for office against someone who's voted multiple times to take away healthcare coverage with no alternative plan, against someone who's voted multiple times against coverage for pre-existing conditions. It's personal to me. And access to healthcare is a human right, and it's not okay to play politics with people's lives. In Congress, my priorities will be to fight for this community, whether that's on access to affordable, quality healthcare, on racial justice, on issues of jobs in the economy and bringing investment to this community, fixing projects like the Brent Spence Bridge, and working tirelessly to do whatever it takes to make our community a better place. I'm running against someone who is very beholden to special interests, who takes more money from gun lobbyists than any member of the Ohio delegation, who receives hundreds of thousands of dollars from pharmaceutical and insurance companies. I'm not taking any corporate PAC donations. My priority is being someone who is independent, who always has the moral courage to stand up and do what is right for this community. And my success will be based on whether or not we make positive change in this community. For me, it's not enough to have the right policy position. If we're not there fighting to make a meaningful impact in the daily lives of people in our community, then I'm not doing my job. I am really grateful for your consideration of my vote, or of your vote. You can read more about me at kateforcongress.com, and please don't forget to vote. Early voting has started. And I'm Kate Schroeder, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jamie Castle. I am a mother of two, a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. I'm a teacher for Cincinnati Public Schools. I grew up in Green Hills, and I live in Mount Washington now. And I am running for Congress for Ohio's 2nd Congressional District. The reason I'm running for Congress is because back in November, I was watching the impeachment hearings, and I became very alienated by the divisive politics that I was witnessing. I wanted someone to vote for that would bring folks together and would not play into this hyper-partisan politic world that we live in now. My friends and I said we cannot wait to vote for someone else, but we realized that no one else had stepped up to challenge the incumbent. So I stepped up myself, because sometimes you have to be your own hero. Before the shutdown happened, I was able to travel around our 8 amazing counties of District 2, all the way to Chillicothe and Portsmouth, Hillsborough, Georgetown, Peebles, and West Union. There are so many beautiful towns here, and I see so much potential and so much progress that we need to do, and we need to try harder, because there was a lot of heartbreak that I saw as well, a lot of neglect and a lot of poverty. I think that we deserve better advocacy here, and I want to be that cheerleader. I want to be that advocate to bring the resources and the opportunity to our district. This would be a dream job for me. I cannot think of anything greater as an honor to fight for the people of District 2 and bring in those resources for better education, for job opportunity, to grow small businesses, to protect the environment. So much needs to be done, and I think I can do a better job. To learn more about me and my background, you can visit my website, castleforuscongress.com, and please, this November, or if you're voting early in October, vote for me, Jamie Castle.
Okay, I want to thank Waycross Community Media for allowing all the candidates to talk. It's the most open forum, or there couldn't be a more open forum. My name is Jim Condit Jr., C-O-N-D-I-T. I'm running in the 2nd District against Brad Wenstrup and Jamie Castle for Congress. I'm a write-in candidate. Dad of 6, my wife and I were married in 1978. I'm the oldest of 11 kids, 60 nieces and nephews. Many of you may know somebody from my extended family and their husbands and so forth. My website is jimforamerica.com. When I was 13, the only thing that's ever come easy to me in life is I played the organ at church, which I've done for the last 54 years at various Catholic churches around the city at Mass. Still do it today. I was somehow, by a quirk of the age of another person, I was at the Nixon Convention in 1972 as an alternate delegate. Somebody anonymously sent me a book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, which I recommend you read at least the first few chapters. He was talking about what Sean Hannity is now calling the deep state, or what I call the shadow government. In fact, Sean Hannity called it that the first time he mentioned it. And so I've been studying that for many, many years, and I'll tell you why WLW has just censored my ads. They played 3 weeks of my ads. This is being recorded in around September 28th, 2008, and they played from September 4th to September 21, and then they censored my ads for the last week. If they do it for another week, the law says I get their station licenses. So Bill Cunningham will have to be answering to me if they decide to keep censoring my ads. I'll tell you why they're censoring my ads. I went into business after going to XU. I majored in Latin, Greek, and philosophy, or those were my main subjects, I should say. My wife said anything couldn't help you to make a living. And then I went into business, and then I was the last company probably to get making big name t-shirts without paying an out-front fee. We made the t-shirts in the Big Red Machine for Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Tony Perez. Now, the reason they're censoring me is I found something out that I never wanted to find out, and that is that the media and the deep state is powered by the organized Jewish lobby, not the average person in Blue Ash that's serving you bagels or something. This is a small group like the head of the mafia. They own every major TV and radio station in the country. And that is why they're censoring me, because I'm telling people that. We're also calling baloney on the COVID pandemic hoax. Now, we have a COVID virus, but there's no pandemic. There just isn't a pandemic. Everybody's not sick. So I want to give you some names real quick here. Here's who, you may think this is great or not great, but we should be allowed to say this by freedom of speech. Robert Iger runs ABC. Maury Rothstein, who uses the name Sumner Redstone, was running CBS. Some of these they may have changed hands to other Jewish owners. Brian Roberts, NBC. Jeff Zucker, CNN. Robert Murdoch, Fox, and of course the New York Times, the Sulzberger family, and Bloomberg News. Every major TV and radio station is owned by this Jewish group. So you may think it's great or not, but apparently WLW doesn't want me to say that. The COVID thing was announced on the same day by all 5 networks. If you go to our website, jimforamerica.com, you're going to find our last show we did, our last radio show on 9/20, that the Bill Gates Foundation knew about this 5 months in advance, and that Dr. Fauci announced 10 days before Trump took office that there will be a pandemic in the next administration, and we got him on there at Georgetown saying that. So that is the reason I'm being censored, those two things, blowing the whistle on the COVID hoax. The only reason we have the lockdown, okay, is so that they can run as many middle-class businesses out of business, and the 1% at the top, which are mostly Jewish businessmen, but not all, will own the country. This is the second 1929 Great Depression too, totally unnecessary. So we got a ton of information. I got more information on my website than all the congressional candidates put together in the last 100 years in Cincinnati. And so it's jimforamerica.com. I urge you to go there. We got all our radio ads up. We got all our TV shows up. And again, I thank Waycross Community Media for being a really open forum that allows everybody to talk.
Hello, I'm Brad Wenstrup. You know, I feel blessed as I recognize that America is the land of opportunity and freedom. And I believe that our safety and our health are our highest priorities. They go hand in hand with freedom. I first ran for office because I want to serve this great country. I've lived here in Cincinnati my entire life. I've served my patients as a doctor here for over 25 years. I served our nation in uniform for 22 years, one of those years in Iraq. And it's an honor to serve as your member of Congress. I've worked on important legislation while in Congress to improve the lives of Ohioans, from fixing a broken VA system to providing tax relief and higher wages for many fellow Americans. But we know there's more work to be done. There always is and will be. Right now, we are working to restore our way of life as we recover from this global pandemic. Many have suffered, but at the same time, many have also stepped up for their neighbors, their community, and their nation. We as Americans overcome challenges, and we continually work to mend our every flaw. We find a path forward. I know this pandemic has been hard for every American, and I'm committed to restoring our way of life. Committed to developing a safe and effective vaccine, along with more effective treatments for those suffering from this unique virus. I'm committed to ensuring that we protect our fellow Americans that have pre-existing medical conditions, and committed to ensuring the nation is prepared for future medical challenges, as well as national security threats. I'm committed to upholding our constitutional freedoms, including our religious liberty. And I'm committed to caring for expecting mothers, as well as the child that they carry in their womb, as their hearts beat side by side. And I'll defend the rights of all Americans to peacefully protest. That is non-negotiable. Just as preserving law and order, as well as equal justice, are non-negotiable. I'm committed to rebuilding our economy in a way that increases take-home pay and creates opportunities for Americans from every walk of life, because all Americans are essential. I'm committed to working to transform our manufacturing base so we are more independent from China, especially when it comes to our critical supply chains for healthcare, national defense, and our technology. I'm committed to renewing the American dream for all Americans. Our nation will flourish when we allow students to attend the school that they and their parents feel is the best for them. Our nation will flourish when we support and fully respect career and technical education, which are the backbone of America, while we continue to advance higher education as well. And as part of the enduring American dream, we will deliver on the promises made to our seniors by protecting Medicare and Social Security. These are my commitments to you, and there's more work to be done, like making sure that our families are safe in our neighborhoods and cities, to provide an environment where there's the opportunity to work hard and earn a fair living, and stand up for American values here and abroad. Individual freedom can lead to collective goodness. The virtues of the Declaration of Independence embedded in our Constitution must be protected and celebrated, that all are created equal, and all are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let's all fly our American flag with a sense of pride and purpose, and live up to the virtues that she embodies, including liberty and justice for all. Join me in working towards that each and every day. I hope to earn your support and earn your vote. as I appreciate having the honor of working for you in Congress. I'm Brad Wenstrup, and may God bless us all.
Hello, my name is Louis Blessing III, and I'm the current state senator for the 8th Senate District, and I am running for re-election in the 8th Senate District, which includes Forest Park, Green Hills, Colerain Township, the northern piece of Springfield Township, as well as western Hamilton County and the northeastern suburbs. I reside in Colerain Township with my wife Heather and our 2 sons, Louie and Jimmy. I am a licensed professional engineer by trade, and I work at Super Systems Incorporated in Sycamore Township. COVID-19 has had an impact on communities not just locally but throughout Ohio and the nation and the world. And its impact has been devastating, not just from a public health standpoint but from an economic standpoint as well. We in the state of Ohio have passed 2 pieces of legislation, House Bill 481 and Senate Bill 357, which have allocated a little over $1 billion to help local governments in their fight against coronavirus. Closer to home, I sponsored an amendment to these bills that allowed for 25% of unencumbered TIF funds to be used for police, fire, and EMS services at a time when those services are at their most important. The net effect of this is that it allowed local governments to avoid going to the ballot when Ohioans are hurting. You might see a lot in the news about civil unrest and calls to defund the police. I've worked with first responders and the organizations that have represented them for years in the State House, and due to my good work with them and presumably my work in the future, I have earned the Fraternal Order of Police endorsement for this election cycle. As an electrical engineer and a legislator for 8 years, one of my top goals has been to make Ohio a national model for workforce development and economic development. Manufacturing is key to Ohio's economy, and to that end, manufacturing has a multiplier effect on the economy, bringing good jobs, not just in the manufacturing sector, but to construction, retail, and others. The past couple cycles when we've had capital appropriations budgets, I have sponsored amendments that have allowed Butler Tech to get more money, and through that they have provided career tech opportunities at Colerain and Northwest Career Centers. As far as the economy is concerned, we have done a great job in Ohio. Since 2011, we have provided Ohioans with a little over $2 billion in income tax cuts, and the unemployment rate has dropped from 9% to 4.5%. This has been done through a combination of low taxes, reduced spending, and getting rid of onerous regulations. COVID-19 has had a very bad impact on our economy, but we are on the road to recovery, and we're doing what we can to get Ohioans back on their feet. From the education standpoint, I have had 4 goals this particular cycle and going forward. The first is to get a truly constitutional school funding formula. I've wanted to work with the report cards and making them fair and accurate so that they best represent the school districts throughout the state of Ohio, fixing our voucher system, and dealing with graduation requirements. Due to my good work in previous General Assemblies and presumably what I will be able to do next General Assembly, I have earned the endorsements of not just the Ohio Education Association, but the Ohio Federation for Teachers and the Ohio Association of Public School Employees. There is a lot more work to be done, and I'm asking you for your vote for Louis W. Blessing III for State Senator for the 8th Senate District. Thank you.
My name is Jessica Miranda, and I am your state representative for the 28th House District. I am running for re-election to continue to represent you and your family in the State House. The Great 28 consists of 13 municipalities, including Forest Park, Green Hills, and Pleasant Run Farms. As a lifelong resident of Southwest Ohio, I now proudly reside in Forest Park, where my husband and I own and operate our small business and where my 3 daughters attend public schools. Go Warriors! As a mom, small business owner, and former school board president, right here in Winton Woods, I have a wide range of experience that allows me to represent families of all shapes and sizes in the 28th District. I originally ran for this seat in 2016 against the incumbent who was not adequately fighting for our families and public schools. Although I lost the first time in 2016, I came back to win in 2018 by only 56 votes. So don't ever let anyone tell you that your vote does not matter, because it does. In my first term as your state representative, I have worked hard on common sense legislation in my caucus and across the aisle to achieve real results for families in the Great 28. I introduced legislation to prevent senseless deaths from gun violence, honor and support our first responders, increase funding to our local government, and ensure fair and adequate funding for our public schools, and bring transparency to corruption and bribery in Ohio by getting dark money out of politics. I have also fought for workers, the environment, and health care for all Ohioans. During my first year and 9 months in office, I have worked to bring jobs to the district and bring our tax dollars back home where they belong. Amidst this pandemic, I have worked to provide support and relief to Ohioans by expanding unemployment, pausing state debt and student debt collections. This year, we are at a crossroads up and down the ballot. As your state representative, I promise that a vote for me is a vote for progress, equality, and transparency. In 2021, we will need to recover from this pandemic and find ways to fully fund health care, education, local governments, and other areas that are most important to families in our communities. We will also have the opportunity to end gerrymandering and create fair maps where people, you and me, choose our public servants, not politicians choosing their territories. A vote for me, Jessica Miranda, is a vote to move forward from this pandemic, stronger than before, because I consider myself a public servant, not a politician. I ask for your support in this upcoming election to continue our work that has been started. Please visit jessicaforohio.com for more information. Again, I am your state representative, Jessica Miranda, running for re-election for the Great 28, because I work for you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Monsell, and I'm running to be your state representative for House District 28 to represent all the residents within our district. I love District 28. I grew up here, I went to school here, I've worked here, I've raised my family here. District 28 is my home. And that's why this election is so important to the families and businesses in our communities. You just have to look at the last 6 months to see just how impactful state government has been in our daily lives. From our jobs, healthcare, to our children's schools, education, sports, to our senior citizens, to our families and businesses in our communities. That's why this election is so important. And this election provides a clear choice for the future of District 28 and for all of Ohio. Most people know of my dedication to public service, most recently as your Hamilton County Commissioner, and before that as a Cincinnati City Council member. During that time, I have an established track record of bipartisan accomplishments, from creating Cradle Cincinnati to reduce our infant mortality rate, to establishing the Hamilton County Heroin Coalition to fight the opioid epidemic, to building a new state-of-the-art crime lab and coroner's office. You should know that I am pro-jobs, pro-family, and pro-safety and law enforcement. And you can't have one without the other. I will bring common sense solutions to the issues important to District 28, from more jobs and getting people back to work and reopening Ohio, to education, making sure our schools are successful, to public safety and making sure our communities are safe, because everyone deserves to live in a safe community. My opponent, on the other hand, supports organizations that have violent protests, that are destroying communities, and support defunding the police. And she goes as far as saying on her Facebook page that blue lives don't exist. What a disparaging, disrespectful, and divisive comment to the men and women who every day put their lives on the line protecting our communities. And during the final vote for the most corrupt and scandalous $6 billion House Bill 6 energy bailout, my opponent was a no-show. She didn't show up. She didn't do her job. It was a dereliction of duty. District 28 had no voice. The choice is clear. My opponent has been ineffective, divisive, and absent. I will provide strong leadership for District 28. My experience and track record shows that. I will show up, and I will fight for you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Harrison Stanley and I'm a write-in candidate to represent Ohio's 29th House District. As you are probably well aware, in Ohio we've been recently embarrassed by our now former Speaker of the House, Larry Householder, who was indicted on a $60 million racketeering charge. The company implicated, First Energy, has been a force in Ohio politics for years now, pumping hundreds of thousands of dollars into political campaigns and millions into anti-clean energy campaigns, while also receiving 5 separate Ohio taxpayer-funded bailouts, including the recent House Bill 6, the center of the Householder controversy, where we're giving this company, again involved in a $60 million bribery scandal, $300 million a year just to have our energy prices go up anyway. All of this is before I've even gotten to why I'm running as a write-in candidate to represent District 29. I'm running because of Representative Abrams. As an unelected representative, appointed last October, by the way, with the personal endorsement of Speaker Householder, with no primary opponent, this year she introduced a voting reform bill opposed by the AARP, the League of Women Voters, the American Civil Liberties Union, and others. This bill, House Bill 680, in its initial writing would have effectively implemented a poll tax, one of the most unconstitutional things possible. You can't charge people money to vote. And even in later revisions would still work to heavily disenfranchise many of our fellow citizens from voting, a right that Americans have long fought and died to defend. Maybe it's just me, but an unelected representative appointed on the endorsement of a man now facing corruption charges while herself receiving thousands in campaign contributions from First Energy and trying to make it harder to vote really has no place in our American democracy, let alone in our great state of Ohio. What good is freedom if our only option stands unelected, unopposed, and attacking our very right to vote? She felt safe in her attack because she had no opponent. She thought she'd get away free and clear. I'm here to stand up to that un-American behavior. She has an opponent now, me. I fight for all of you, my fellow Ohioans, and our most fundamental rights. On policy, I'm mostly open to ideas. As an independent nonpartisan, I'm able to support the strength of an idea, not just the wills of the party whip. I will work for all of our people in the 29th district. However, there are a few things I'd like to touch on. To start, I'll jump in with the ambitious. We need to legalize cannabis. We need to tax it at the same rate of tobacco, around 15%, and use that funding to support education outcomes, infrastructure expansion, and healthcare. Using Colorado as an example, they've had $1.5 billion in extra tax revenue from cannabis legalization over the past 6 years. Sure, they have a higher per capita usage rate than we do currently. However, over the next couple of decades, that will bring in a lot of money for our state that we can use to benefit others. Continuing an immoral prohibition when the majority of Americans and Ohioans support its legalization is kind of ridiculous. The job of government is not to dictate morality, it is to provide for the common good. Do we want to help our farmers? It'll be a new cash crop for our state. Do we want to help teachers? It will help fund our public education systems and improve learning outcomes. To help our teachers is to directly help and impact our future. Do we want to help our citizens who are eligible for medical cannabis but still can't acquire it because of excessive fees? Legalization will make it more readily accessible for them. Do we want to improve our infrastructure to better prepare for the future? Tax revenue from this will help fund the Ohio Public Works Commission and allow us to prosper and grow. Do we want to improve healthcare access for our fellow citizens? The money for it has to come from somewhere. Beyond that, we've been giving large tax breaks to multi-million or even multi-billion-dollar corporations, while we have a nearly 15% poverty rate in the state. And that was even before the pandemic. How much worse off are many Ohioans now? We can help them. We can help ourselves. We just need representatives in government that are willing to make it happen. Our lowest earning citizens shouldn't be paying more in taxes than the rich. Nothing I'm proposing is radical or even revolutionary. They're all things that have been tried and tested elsewhere in the country and elsewhere in the world to great success. We can't let Ohio fall behind the times. There are so many things that can be done to help our fellow Ohioans, and it's time for someone who's willing to fight the fight that needs to be fought to make them happen. The fight for a better tomorrow starts today. Check out my website at writeinharrisonstanley29.com, as well as on Facebook and Twitter at writeinstanley. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Hi, my name is Andy Black, Republican candidate for Hamilton County Commissioner. I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce myself and hopefully earn your support on Tuesday, November 3rd. My family has deep roots here in Hamilton County, going back to my great-great-grandparents who started the Ray Hamilton Moving Company in 1892. I was born in Delhi Township, raised in Marymount, graduated from the Marymount Public School Systems. From there, I went up the road to Oxford, where I earned my BA from Miami University. From there, I went on to Bellarmine University in Louisville, Kentucky, and earned my MBA. I have a mix of public and private sector experience that I think is needed presently on the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners. When I was 29 years old, I was elected to the Marymount Village Council. From there, I served as the Finance Committee Chairman and eventually Vice Mayor for 2 terms at a time when we were facing unprecedented cuts from the state level that forced us to make difficult decisions to deliver a balanced budget to our residents without raising taxes. I've also spent nearly 20 years in the private sector managing and growing lines of business, including working for employers based here in Ohio, Diebold Incorporated and NCR. I plan on bringing this balance of private and public sector experience to the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners, because I believe now more than ever, an outsider with a different perspective is needed to get us growing in this coming decade. So I thank you for your time, and I would love to have your support on Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Haman Najoli. I am the first independent to ever run for the non-partisan role of Hamilton County Commissioner. I am a father, a friend, and a futurist. A father because my wife of 16 years and I have 2 children, a 14-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. I also coach multiple sports, soccer, basketball, and track and field on the west side of town. So I mentor many young boys and girls. I am a friend because I have a passion for serving everyone with humility, empathy, resilience, maturity, authenticity, and niceness. My public service values are neighborliness, accountability, joint problem solving, objectivity, leadership-mindedness, and initiative. I am a futurist because I actually decided to run for commissioner in 2008. You might remember that year, the 2 parties colluded in a backroom deal to prevent voters from choosing their next commissioner. George Vincent and Tim Buck, along with Todd Potune and Greg Hartman, came up with this deal that there will be no challengers in the races for county commissioner that year. So I decided I would run for commissioner, but chose to go to school first. I went to Indiana Wesleyan University for my doctoral degree. I completed a 232-page dissertation on the concept of wisdom and citizenship behavior in leaders. In 2015, I was named one of Cincinnati's 40 under 40 for my work in helping homeless men get off the streets, into shelter, and into rapid rehousing. And then come 2019, I pounded the pavements to collect signatures to run for county commissioner. I turned in 6,847 signatures, which is way more than all the signatures combined of all the candidates who have ever been elected commissioner in the entire history of our county. I am an educator and a public servant. I have written 4 books, The Road to Arrival, Battling for Your Prophetic Destiny, Quest for Light, and my most recent book is Public Servants in Government, Education, and Non-Profit Sectors. I currently serve on the Hamilton County Tax Incentive Review Commission, and I have served on the WCPO Community Advisory Board. My campaign slogan is Move Forward, Be Fast, Lead. I launched my campaign by running 230 miles, stepping foot in every zip code in Hamilton County. Some of the things that I really care about in the county are MSD. I want to make it a major success demonstration. The opioid epidemic, vulnerable persons, emergency management, facilities and stadiums, overall public health, regionalization, the Western Hills Viaduct, affordable housing, robust arts and culture, and developing our county workforce. I want to make sure we have a better government and economic empowerment for all. I want to ensure that we have a fiscally wise budget to ensure that we have innovative inclusiveness for all in Hamilton County. I want to bring responsible leadership to Hamilton County to ensure that we have smarter safety and a good multimodal transit system. As County Commissioner, I will leverage the wisdom of our elders and retirees. I will enable the excellence of women and girls. I will affirm the leadership of our boys and men in our county. And I will help to develop county approaches for immigrants and refugees. Friends, I have a comprehensive platform. It is a 32-page document that you can download from my website. Go to drnajoli.com hamiltoncountymd.org/platform. On November 3rd, vote for the non-party candidate. Vote Najoli for County Commissioner. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alicia Reece, candidate for Hamilton County Commissioner. I'm excited to be running in this race, and I'm asking for your vote. I have an extensive amount of experience in public service. I've served as a vice mayor of the city of Cincinnati on the finance committee where I balance budgets. I also rolled back property taxes, and I created thousands of jobs and invested in infrastructure. I've been the state representative for the Ohio General Assembly, where I've represented a large part of the county, including Springfield Township, where I brought back over $20 million for small businesses, was able to bring back an infrastructure project, the only new highway exit in the entire state on I-71, named the Martin Luther King Highway Exit, to connect people to hospitals and jobs with a whole new innovation corridor. I also served on the state's finance committee and was able to work across party lines to bring money, jobs, and opportunities back to Hamilton County. I'm running for Hamilton County Commissioner now because I believe that I'm the best candidate that can help you and your family bounce back. We've been hit by a pandemic, health pandemic. We've been hit by a global economy hit at the same time. Families are struggling right now, and I want to be able to be that bridge. I'm able to be a bridge between the city of Cincinnati and the county. I'm able to be a bridge between what's happening in your house and how we make sure we invest in you. And so my issues are really simple. It's about helping Hamilton County bounce back. I want to work together to solve the MSD problems so that we can have the top line sewer districts, but keep the cost down on the ratepayers. I want to have the best public health as we fight this pandemic together. And so I want to continue to make sure we invest in public health, mental health, senior services, and come together as we fight against the pandemic. I also want to focus on job creation, as I always have. I hosted my own job fair and connected hundreds of people to jobs, but I want to expand that to have our youth get off of the streets, but be in jobs where they can be having internships, be able to have opportunity and good mentors. I also want to invest in infrastructure because I'm about pro-growth. Infrastructure throughout the county, including the Western Hills Viaduct and other infrastructure projects in your township and in your municipalities. I'm running to be the county commissioner for all 49 municipalities. I've got the experience, I've got the understanding, and I've got the track record of getting the job done. We can do this together. I ask for you to go to my website, votealiciareece.com, to get more information. We have hosted food banks. We have also done Meals on Wheels, and we have also had voter hubs throughout Hamilton County. Because the only way we're successful is if we come together and we fight together to make Hamilton County the #1 county in the country. I'm Alicia Reece, and I'm asking for your vote.
Hi, my name is Matt ONeil. I'm running for Hamilton County Commissioner. Thank you for watching the information about my campaign. First, what got me into the campaign were really 3 issues related to taxes: the sales tax rate, the MSD sewer rates, and the amount of taxes that are going toward the bank's developments. 2 things have happened since my campaign that are just overwhelming the local interest, and that is obviously the worldwide pandemic, coronavirus, and the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And I want to speak to those first. Relating to coronavirus, I am against shutdowns. I will do all I can while I'm in office, should I be elected, to highlight the dangers of the shutdowns and put the death count in perspective to what is really happening in the world. Every time you hear news that says the United States leads the world in death count, well, that's misleading because it simply does not adjust for the population. When adjusted for actual population, the United States does not lead the world. So that to me is information meant to mislead, and to create fear. And regarding George Floyd, obviously it's a terrible, terrible death that he suffered, completely needless, and the police were wrong. However, it is also wrong to burn down neighborhoods and riot and spread fear in a community. And we need to have people that are of minds that are open to discussion to discuss how we can reform police to make sure that officers such as that or officer interaction with citizens doesn't result in that. And I would say the same with Breonna Taylor. Obviously, a terrible tragedy there too, an innocent person being gunned down in the middle of the night. Who wants the police barging into their home in the middle of the night? You know, I certainly don't, and I don't think any of you do. But these are things that we can discuss in a clear mind, but defunding the police, I want to get out there that I support the police, and that is not a solution. So back to the issues of the primary reason I got into the campaign. First, the tax rate should have fallen in Hamilton County in April this year because the Union Terminal building was complete. The renovations were done, but instead of reducing taxes to 6.75, that money was transferred over in a different part of the Hamilton County budget. So to me, that's an unvoted tax increase. We didn't vote for a 25% tax increase. In 2008, the Hamilton County Commissioners tried to increase sales tax by 0.5. Only when 34,000 voters got together petitions and were going to get that on the ballot successfully and repeal it before it was implemented, the commission then pulled that off the ballot, so we didn't see that increase go through. Other things that our commissioners have done, they spent $30 million to move sand around to please Mike Brown near the stadium. They spent $36 million on a hotel downtown across from the convention center, only to tear it down and demolish it. So it seems with 3 commissioners on there that are Democrats, there's no end to the tax increases and waste of government money that they have in mind. Swinging back to MSD, I describe it this way: if it was $10 for your water and $10 for your stormwater, it was also $10 for your sewerage bill. Unfortunately, the ratio now is 10 to 60. So I will get in there and examine the operations of that operation. By trade, I am a financial accountant. I've worked my entire career as a treasury manager and mainly at colleges and also now at a publicly traded healthcare company. So I'm very good at money. I'm used to being audited all the time by both my bosses, external auditors, governmental auditors. So, you know, I think the MSD has to be a lot more accountable to the taxpayers. Finally, in relation to the banks, in this month, we had SoFi Stadium open. We also had Los Angeles Stadium open. The price tags of those were $2 billion and $5 billion. Somehow I don't think the taxpayers in Hamilton County are going to be interested in spending anywhere $1, $2, $3 billion, whatever it is, to compete in the NFL. I would like to see an arrangement made where we have a backup tenant, and that's the University of Cincinnati, come in there, and let's see what we can do to help them get in the Big 12 Conference and support the use of the stadium that way. More high school teams coming down there, other college games, other than UC, and make that a community asset instead of just, you know, to enrich the NFL. So those are the reasons why I am running, and I hope that I can get your vote on November 3rd, or if you're early voting, beginning tomorrow. Thank you.